Hi there, this is James Swanwick, and you're listening to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn how to take back control over alcohol and live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness.
Hi everyone, this is Sarah Connelly for the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast. And today I'm delighted to welcome a former client of ours, Adam. Adam is 47, he works in construction, and he is now, how many days alcohol-free, Adam?
139 days now.
139 days alcohol-free. So when Adam joined us, one of the things that he shared, which I think most of us can relate to, is that he moved his quit drinking date for quite a few years. And I think he is willing to share with us how many times, maybe, a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was probably about 10 years ago. I put a meeting on my calendar, and it said something to the effect of life is a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I put that on my calendar, and that was the day that I was going to quit drinking. And it was about a week out from that date that I made it. And I got to that date, and I was, fully thought that it would happen. And about a week later, I was drinking every night again, and I moved it to the next week, and then I moved it again. And over the course of 10 years, I probably moved it every couple weeks to a month out another week. And I went through that process for 10 years until I started the program.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was obviously, for you, a very conscious thing. It was like every time you would change the date. Did you during that time take any time off? Did you try and stop, or were you just continuing to drink?
Yeah, I was continuing to drink. I would take maybe a week off at times. And that week I was pretty committed at the time and thought I could continue it for longer than a week, but it would never last more than really a week. And then I would feel great at, the 4 or 5 day mark. And I would think, wow, I'm feeling great. And then all of a sudden I found myself the next day with the drink in my hand, and the cycle would just start over.
Yeah, I think it's so relatable to so many people, that word cycle, vicious cycle even, we might call it. So can you recall, Adam, what were your motivations for drinking? Like, were you somebody that drank to relieve stress, or were you somebody that was social with alcohol? How did it appear in your life?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the social aspect. It was, I really drank for the most part home alone. And I was trying to escape. And it was so escape, whether it was life or things that I thought were challenges. But it's really that escapism, getting away from things and trying to turn my brain off.
Yeah, it does that, doesn't it?
It does. It has a sneaky way of doing it.
Absolutely. So you're drinking home alone, you're using it to shut that off your busy mind, and in those moments it's effective. What were the implications of that, or the impact of that on your life?
Yeah, I was just kind of going through the motions every day because I would be, hungover and tired. And, I was just doing enough to get by. And, work was easy enough that I could succeed at work. But I would struggle throughout the day. I felt horrible. I really wasn't sleeping. And there were nights when I was getting, staying up really late drinking, and then only getting 4 hours of sleep, and then just battling through the workday. And then when I was done, working, I would get home and I just had no motivation or energy to do anything. And so that really just persisted, and it kind of became the norm. And I was just doing that and living, just getting by. And I was kind of also, pretty separated from what was going on. I just kind of going through the motions of life and not really being connected with what was going on.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's work, the work was kind of, you're just getting by. there's the health side, the lack of sleep. What about relationships at the time? What was going on there?
Yeah, it was a struggle with my girlfriend because, I was able to kind of maintain it because we were living apart. And so there was a certain period where I was, we would talk every night. But I would usually pour my first or second drink right about the time we started talking so that she couldn't really recognize that I was drinking. And then I would, continue that drinking in the evening, and she knew that I was drinking, didn't know how much. And then it started to where I was drinking, and she could pick up on it, and she could tell even after my first drink. And that was really a strain on that relationship. And then also with my son, I would always tell myself I, wouldn't drink at times to be able to do things with my son, but I was never really connected because I was tired. And I had spent the day going through the motions of life, and then I wasn't engaging enough with him, even though I told myself that I was doing it. I really wasn't. I was just happened that in those moments I might not have been drinking, but I was either getting over drinking, feeling horrible, or thinking about drinking.
Yeah, I totally relate. And just for the listeners, Adam has a son who's 12, Quinn,
Great.
and I'm excited to learn a bit later on about how that relationship's changed. But before we get to that, I'm interested to, if you can recall how you felt about yourself at that time when you were stuck in that vicious cycle of drinking.
It's kind of funny because I sort of felt like it was just a part of my identity, because I think one of the things I felt like I was sort of broken, and that I was almost, I used the phrase damaged goods. And so I was drinking home alone by myself when I wasn't with other people. And so it was me, drinking because I was damaged, and then thinking that was just part of my identity and that I would never solve that, and that that was just going to be a part of who I was.
Yeah, that's such a powerful belief to have, right?
I almost wore it like a badge of honor. Like I could get through life and be successful and have this thing that I was drinking that made me almost in some weird way stronger. That I was, able to handle all of these things not well, but still get by. And I almost thought that it was like, um, that it wasn't causing as much effect in my life than it really was.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the case for so many people. We downplay it, make it not that big a deal. However, eventually something happens or a series of events happen that wake us up. And so, from going from a place where you felt broken, that you were damaged goods, and that in some ways that was, or in many ways, that was your identity, and you wore it as a badge of honor, what happened, if anything, that clicked you to set that date and actually go for it?
Yeah, I always knew in the back of my mind that I was kidding myself and that I was getting by and able to manage, but I knew that it was a problem, and that I shouldn't, I had saved that meeting invitation to myself about quitting and telling myself I was going to quit, and then found myself believing that it was, part of my identity. And then, over time, I had always knew that I had to quit. And I think I just strung together a long period of where it just got to a point where it was always bad, but it got really bad to where I was drinking until 2, 3 in the morning, and then going to work at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I just realized that it was like I woke up one day and I was just like, I've got to figure this out. And it was actually interesting. My girlfriend told me that, one of the things was that you shouldn't feel bad, that you need to talk to somebody about this. And she was really supportive. She knew what was going on, and she said, you definitely need to talk to somebody. And then I saw a video that James had, and it talked about that need for community. And when she had told me some things, I kind of discounted it and said, I'm too strong. I'm strong. I'm getting away with this now. I can figure this out on my own. And I saw something on Instagram where James said the one thing that people are really missing is community. And that kind of jumped out at me. And I'd heard Dana say that to me, but I never really took it to heart. And that's when there was just a moment on I think it was a Sunday that I just decided it was time, and made the decision to try to sign up for the group.
Yeah. Wow. So you went from, I mean, this is so interesting, isn't it? That a home alone, isolated, damaged person that really almost felt like that was who you were, to being regularly reminded, perhaps by your girlfriend, to seeing a video which was like, oh, wow, I'm actually missing connection.
Yes. Yeah, that was kind of the eye opener, because I had felt like I had everything I needed to figure this out, and thinking that I could do it on my own because I've been successful and able to, make it this far in life and do the things that I've done, and feeling like I didn't need help.
Yeah.
And I think it was not just the community, it was really realizing that I can't do it myself and that I do need help. And that feeling and saying that I need help isn't saying that I'm not strong. And it's that kind of, there's a certain male macho about feeling like you can do anything, and getting past that, I think was a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. However, yeah, it's something that's incredibly hard to do on our own. And I know from my experience, I was successful on my own for like a month, a couple of weeks. But you just don't have a few things that are really important, accountability being one of them, right?
Yeah, I think the accountability, the one thing that jumped out at me is, like you said, you could take a week off. And the thing that really caught me was I would find myself with a drink in my hand and not even realize that I had done it. And then even when I was telling myself, you're not going to drink, and I'd go 3-4 days, and then the day would come that I would drink. And I didn't go through a thought process that I was, passing up what I had been trying to do. I just wound up starting to drink again, and realizing that I don't have it all figured out, and not feeling bad about getting help. There's also the certain amount of like crossing that threshold of asking for help is a big part of it, for sure.
Yeah, it's huge. I think it's at that moment, and from my own experience, when I verbalized to my GP, I think I've got a drinking problem. From that point, everything changed. And I think that's what happens when you make that decision. You can make the decision, but you've actually got to take action. I mean, you made the decision 10 years ago. I made the decision in 2002, and I quit in 2019. So it's great. Yeah, actually got to take action. So you did that. You took action. You found a program. Tell me if you can recall, were you hopeful at that point? Did you feel like this is going to be it for me?
I did. Yeah, I was very hopeful. I was so ready. I remember the call with James and talking through things with him, and then a few of the calls that first day, and I was just like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready. I'm so ready. And so I was very, very hopeful, and just felt ready. Just felt so beaten down and tired that I was just ready, and trusting that the program would work.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell us a bit about that experience. You made the decision, you joined the program, and you're flung into an environment with your tribe, your people that you're going to connect with. Tell me how that was for you, being somebody that was almost, an isolator.
Yeah, it was great. It was really good because I think the thing that really made such a difference is the moment I started, I felt so connected with the people right away. And so many people the first couple days had reached out and just welcomed me. And I did not feel at all like I was, didn't feel uncomfortable, didn't feel that weirdness about admitting that I was, had a problem and being there. I just felt so welcomed, and it was great. And all of the kind of thoughts of being uncomfortable, of sharing, and uncomfortable of being putting myself in a position where I was, hiding it for so long and sharing it with people that I didn't know. I very quickly felt really, really comfortable, and it was great.
Mm. Yeah, that's amazing to go from, and I think this is the big thing, isn't it? We're in such shame and guilt and feeling like we're the only one with this dark secret, and then you go in and see, wow, there's all these people just like me that are exactly the same.
Yeah, and they're all, just people that you would walk down the street and see, and they're people that you interact with every day that, you probably have a number of those in your life that you're interacting with now and don't even know it. And they all were people that were getting by, and it felt like I was talking to people that I would normally interact with every day, and that they were just sharing that they were in the same position. And you realize that everybody has problems, everybody does. And we kind of see a version of everyone that is not their true self, because there's so much going on in their lives that we just don't know about. And you kind of get caught up in thinking that everyone's life is so perfect, and you realize that everybody has problems, and everybody's a little screwed up.
Oh, yes. Maybe
Yeah.
more than a little.
Yeah.
Maybe. But you raise an important point, I think, that we feel like we are screwed up and we've got this secret in this dark life, and we look outside and everybody else seems to be handling it and drinking moderately and, being these incredible unicorns that can only have one or whatever. But the reality is people are also looking at us in that way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I have not felt that way, and I apologize for the siren. Uh, I I don't I know a lot of people were concerned about that, and I just have not felt that way at all. I have almost taken and felt the opposite. Like, and I don't know if that's different for me than other people, but and it feels amazing that I feel bad for the people who are drinking, and I don't internalize or feel anything where I feel like I'm missing out, or if someone else feels like I'm the one with the problem, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like they're all missing out. And it's been amazing because I've been in situations where other people are drinking, and I just am not uncomfortable at all. And it's kind of funny. I was on a train to down to Olympia where Dana lives, and it was great. I was avoiding traffic. Just found out that I can take the Amtrak down there, and it's so relaxing because sitting in the car for that hour and a half drive with tons of traffic, it's really stressful. And I was just sitting in the cabin, and I went to the bar car to get a coffee, and as I walked up, there were two people in front of me who didn't know each other, and they were ordering drinks, and they were so excited about ordering drinks. And I was just like, man, I feel so sorry for them, and I don't feel like I'm missing out at all. And I was just like, wow, they are choosing to do something that is really unfortunate. And that's that same kind of scenario has happened multiple times for me. And I remember a couple of the folks saying they wish they could get to the point where Victoria once said she walked down the aisles of this grocery store and saw the alcohol and was almost disgusted. And I walk down the aisles of the alcohol, and I'm just kind of laugh at it now. I just kind of joke with myself about how silly it is that I was there every day.
Right. So true. For people, when they talk like that, that's the association with alcohol has completely done a backflip. So that's the rewiring of the neural pathways in real life. It's like that initial connection with alcohol was fun and relaxation and everything else, and to transform that into alcohol and disgust is a pretty powerful shift.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was thinking through how I think of alcohol now, and I kind of think about alcohol like scuba diving. Like, I'm not into scuba diving. I never really think about scuba diving. Uh, Occasionally, when I take my son down to the beach, I see scuba divers, and I'm like, oh, scuba divers, that's weird. You know, I never really think about it. I think scuba divers are a little weird, people that do that. Uh, and, I think it's a little dangerous. And then I never think about it again.
That's an excellent visual for me.
Yeah, it's funny how I don't know how it came up. It was just one day I was thinking about drinking because of the situation of it just becoming a thing it never even comes up for me. And that kind of visualization just popped in my head one day.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. So I'm going to ask you a question about missing out, because you said I feel like I'm not missing out. So what do you think people miss out on that are drinking? Or what do you
Yeah,
know now?
yeah, I think the thing that missing out on is that the freedom to have, to live a life and be so comfortable with yourself that you don't need alcohol. And I think even the folks that are maybe casually drinking but still getting tipsy from time to time, but never get to a point where they're binge drinking at home alone, but they are having enough drinks to get a little tipsy. It's just, you know there's no need for it. And there's something that right now, whenever I feel like I'm in a situation where people are drinking, I enjoy the peace of not needing a drink and not feeling peer pressure. And also, even though it's just having a few drinks, I've spoken to a number of folks that are friends that drink casually, and they maybe only have one or two drinks, and they're in their 40s now, and they feel exhausted the next day, even after just a couple of drinks. And so I think, even if it's just a small amount of alcohol that people are drinking, it's still having a big effect that people don't realize, because I think they have two or three drinks and the next day they're really tired, lack of motivation. They don't get things done that they would normally. But since they feel like they're not drinking excessive, that it's not a problem. And yeah, but for me, it's the freedom. Just feeling that freedom, when I'm home alone, to do whatever I want and not have that crutch and not have that control over me, to tell myself, even when I'm sitting for a couple of hours and not drinking, and then all of a sudden I tell myself to go to the store and get that alcohol, 141 days ago. Just having that freedom to sit back and just relax and be present, and spend the time however I want, productively, and sometimes not productively. Just doing nothing is enjoyable.
Yeah, it's so true, because when you're doing nothing and you're alcohol free, there's no guilt or shame. It's a choice. It's not because you feel terrible. It's just I'm doing it because I want to do it or not do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So missing out is definitely that paradigm shift that people make when they quit drinking. It's like we're conditioned to believe that if we don't drink, we're missing out. And the paradigm shift is actually if you do drink, you're missing out. I'm wondering if you would be able to share some of the steps or learnings that helped you make that shift throughout the 100 odd days that you've been alcohol free.
Yeah, I think the first thing was the science really helped. So understanding the neuroscience, the neural pathways, and learning that I was hijacking my brain and creating neural pathways to believe that I needed to drink, and the dopamine, and that long-term progression from my 20s, that it had built up from maybe casual to excessive to a point where it had control over my those neural pathways, and understanding the science really helped because I thought that I was able to fix it myself, and that I was broken and all of these things, but learning that there's actually science behind it, and that I can change that through your help of reworking those neural pathways, that was huge. And then the piece about being broken and damaged goods, I think a number of the calls that we had, you talked about giving your inner critic a day off, and that you're not the person that you're telling yourself are, that you're amazing, and I think that was a huge one for me, and that was less about the science and more about a personal, like how you see yourself, and making that change, and telling myself that I wasn't broken, and that I had all these things going for me, that I was really missing out and not taking an advantage of life, and realizing that there was all of this life that to live, that I was kind of allowing myself to not have. And by pushing that meeting invitation, I also had these goals that I was pushing out, and it was kind of funny. A number of things towards the tail end happened. I would say probably 60 to 70 days in, I still had a bottle of this Japanese whiskey in my garage that someone had gave me. And I told myself, I'd left it there. And I kind of in the back of my mind thought, one day maybe I would have that one bottle one last time, 5 years in the future, some milestone, my son graduating college, something with my father. And I think through working through it and continuing with you on the calls, I found myself where I didn't want to have that anymore, and that this idea of never drinking again didn't scare me anymore. And one day my folks were over, and it was probably in the day 80 range, and I gave that bottle to my dad, that bottle of whiskey, and I said, "Hey, put this in the wine cellar, and have it whenever you like. It was a gift." And the idea of never again doesn't scare me at all. I actually embrace it, and I'm excited for it. And I know we're not supposed to think that way. In some cases, a lot of people are afraid of that idea of never again, but I love the idea of never again, because I want it to be never again.
I love that you love the idea of never again.
Yeah.
I think that's when we know, I mean, never say never, right? But just being excited by not drinking is the
Yeah.
total opposite. And as you know, when we talk about one of the biggest problems we have is when we still value the substance. If the
Hmm.
substance still has a value for us and we still think, oh, I might have a drink on this special occasion, it still means there's an attachment to it. And we still believe it can actually give us something. It sounds to me like you really don't feel like there's much for you or anything for you in the bottle anymore.
I really don't. And I know in talking to a lot of folks, they were afraid of that kind of never again. And I don't have any of that. I don't think that even the idea of getting to a point where I'm a year, 2 years, and allowing myself to try to have a drink again, there's just no interest, and I don't feel like I'm missing out at all.
Just a quick message from our show sponsor, Project 90, the program that helps you enjoy life more by getting ultimate power over alcohol. Project 90 helps high achievers regain their confidence, be more present with friends and family, get clear, reduce stress and anxiety, sleep better, increase focus and productivity, and feel a whole lot better. Project 90 does this by helping members quit alcohol for at least 90 days whilst providing 6 months of accountability and support. The program has an 87% success rate of members reaching at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free on their first attempt. Members get a one-on-one accountability coach, a community of like-minded people to interact with, 100% confidentiality, and what's more, members tell us it's fun. Project 90 members are mostly over the age of 35, entrepreneurs, executives, top professionals, or retirees. If you're in your late 30s or 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, or older, and you consider yourself a high achiever, and you're ready to upgrade your life by quitting alcohol for at least 90 days and maybe more, then you can have a free 20-minute exploratory call with one of Project 90's former clients, now coaches. If you'd like to book that call, you can go to jamesswanwick.com/schedule. That's jamesswanwick.com/schedule. Or if you're on your phone in the US right now, you can text the word Project 90 to the number 44222, and we'll email you the schedule link. That's texting the word Project 90 to the number 44222. Okay, let's get back to the show.
So what do you do instead, Adam? Because, drinking can take up a lot of time. It does take up a lot of time. And people always say when they stop drinking, wow, I have all this time. So what do you now do? What have you replaced your drinking with?
Yeah, so I've done a number of things. I now, back then I was picking my son up from school 2 days a week, and he and I were spending the afternoons. I'd leave work a little bit early, and now I pick him up 3 to 4 days a week, and so I fill that more time with him, which is great. And that's been a huge, huge enjoyment and fulfilling. And then I have a number of other things, like I've been getting more into golf. I've always been into golf, but I've never really practiced a lot. And so I'm now spending time, at the driving range. I'm doing a lot more cooking. I'm doing a lot more investing. And, I'd always had, ideas of different investing ideas, and I'm doing a lot more of that and learning. I'm learning Spanish, which I had studied in high school and grade school a lot. And so I spent 5 years in school, and I held on to a very, very small amount of it. But now I'm, practicing and learning and using Duolingo to learn Spanish. And then, gosh, what else? I started playing around on my son's keyboard piano a little bit from time to time. I'm exercising a lot more. I'm getting out and just doing things like going to the beach. And I now go down to the beach and just sit there and enjoy the peace and the sound of the water. So it's kind of funny. I'm doing a lot of things now that I never did before.
Yeah. But no scuba diving.
No scuba diving, not for me.
But that's a full life that you've just described. That's a full life compared to where we started, which was you sitting alone, isolated, damaged, something wrong with you, drinking. I mean, that's a huge shift in 100+ days.
Yeah, it's crazy because back then I always thought I never had any time. And now I still don't really feel like I'm fully using all my time, but yet I just told you all the things that I've been doing, and I'm thinking back and I'm like, wow, I am doing all those things, and I still feel like I have time. It's amazing.
It really is. I mean, golf and kids and cooking and investing and learning Spanish and tinkering on the keyboard and exercising and going to the beach. That's a life to be proud of, right?
Yeah.
And tell me, your son, Quinn, he has obviously known you as a drinker and now knows you as a non-drinker, but maybe not explicitly. Would you share how that relationship has transformed?
Yeah, I've definitely noticed how much more connected we are. And he can tell the difference in me. And just our relationship was, good before, but it's been so amazing now. Um, we're so connected, and I'm working with him on school and soccer and all of the things that he's involved with, and helping him with things. And you know he's 12 years old now, and I still have that feeling where he's comfortable with me. The other day we were at the grocery store, and he was holding my hand to walk across the parking lot, and then just ended up holding my hand like as we were walking through the grocery store. And I thought, wow, you're 12 years old and still holding my hand. And so we are just so much more connected now. And yeah, it's been amazing. And I know that he knew that I was drinking, and he knows the difference now. And so just it's just been amazing.
Yeah. And likely to be more as he gets older, perhaps, and you're the role model now, hopefully having an influence on him in that way too.
Yeah, he drinks club soda with me as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of funny, the story of him asking about the club soda. I had started the club soda routine and poured myself a drink one evening when he was playing, and he asked what I was drinking, and I said it's club soda with lime and no alcohol. And he said, oh, and I said no alcohol twice to be let him know that what it was. And he said, oh, is that temporary or is it permanent? And I
Oh,
said, oh, it's permanent. And he kind of looked at me and he goes, okay, cool. And the next day he saw my drink again, and he asked if he could have one. And now he has club soda with lime on a regular basis with me.
isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
But I think I'll speak for myself, really didn't really appreciate how much my kids did know. They don't talk about it, or they didn't, but now I don't drink. They are so proud. And I think it's, the motivation to stop drinking comes from so many different things, from how we feel about ourselves, but also what do we want for our children if we have them.
Yeah, it's and I think you don't really realize how much they notice, and at the time you think you're hiding it well. And I know I thought I was, but I was also drinking around him, but um maybe not trying to drink as much when I'm around him. But there were nights when it was just the two of us that I was drinking too much, and not feeling well in the morning, and he could see that I was struggling, and so he was going through it with me as well, and fully aware of what I was doing, even though I thought I was hiding it. And now his attitude and how we do things, and the enjoyment and the excitement about going and do things, because I'm now trying to motivate him to do things when he doesn't want to, and he's excited about it. And it's, yeah, it's scary how much they notice and can feed off you, and realize what's going on with you, more than and so now, feeling the connection that I have with him, I can't believe I was in that spot that I was before.
Yeah. It's pretty special, I think, isn't it, when you realize that kids, they they do what you do, not what you say. And what we can model for them is so, so important. And there's not a lot of words that need to be said, but they just watch us, don't they?
They watch everything, and it's amazing. It's kind of a funny, but when we're over at my folks quite a bit, Dana, the girls, and my son, and so we're always over there on weekends. And at night they always ask for ice cream at the end of the night. And I, probably about a year ago, started pouring my chocolate in, and I let my ice cream melt a little bit, and then I stir it up so it's kind of custardy. And I would do that every time, and I would let it sit and wait for a few minutes. And they would always, get into it and really be wanting their ice cream right away. And my son was watching me do that, and now he does that and has never asked why, but he just does exactly what I do, and
Yeah.
and just every time now.
Yeah. And it makes me think about, just pouring wine, because that's what I observed. And it just
Hmm.
became something that you would do as soon as you could do it, you would do it. It's just what I saw every single night in my family home. You don't question it when you're a kid.
Yeah, it just becomes normal, and just becomes the normal every day. And then you find yourself in doing the normal and going down that path and not realizing how far down the hole you've gone. And then one day you wake up and 20 years have passed, and you drank away so many opportunities.
But also, I think, and we talk about this as well in the groups, is if you didn't reach this point, then you wouldn't be where you are now. And I think sometimes we need to experience the dark to really come out and totally embrace the light side of life.
Absolutely, because like I just enjoy everything so much more now. And I think getting to that dark place, you when you do come out of it, if you're successful, you have an appreciation for things that you wouldn't normally have. And I think so many people that I've heard that have, kind of come out of it have found themselves trying to help people just with general daily not being happy, because now they're so much happier than everybody else, and people around them are, even when if they're not drinkers, are not enjoying their life to the extent that they could, because for some reason they haven't, found a way to appreciate life. And so I think you're right. By being in that place and coming out of it, you just embrace life and finding that connectedness and being present and being able to enjoy things in a way that you couldn't and probably others can't.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's that thing that we often say as well in the groups, that nobody ever says, I wish I didn't quit drinking. Like, I've never heard anybody say that.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, no one says that.
It's something that should probably be on a billboard, maybe. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, that would be a good billboard for sure. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we see the opposite, don't we? And that's all part of the conditioning, and part of the reason why so many of us got trapped and stuck in the first place. But sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. I during the program, I always watched a lot of sports, but never really noticed it. And I remember, during the program paying more attention and just starting to count when I was watching a sporting event, how many ads were, on for alcohol and beer. And it blew me away, because I was just unconsciously watching it beforehand. And I'd always joked that when I drank beer, I drink Corona, because I saw it in a movie, and the scene I loved of why they were having a Corona, and just didn't even realize how much I was being told and being marketed to without realizing it.
It's fascinating, isn't it? When you do wake up to the programming, it's kind of what I like to call it, or brainwashing. But the wonderful thing is that we can totally re-brainwash in a more empowering way, which is what you've done in the last 100. Remind me again,
139 days. Yes.
139 days.
Yeah.
You've fully brainwashed. Our work is done.
Yeah.
Tell me, Adam, what else, what other benefits, like if you could maybe pick top 3 benefits to finish up our conversation today?
Yeah, I would say the one benefit right now that really comes to mind is I'm like in this mode where I'm like trying to decide what I do with my life, because I feel so much freedom and so present, and that I feel like there's nothing that I can't do, and that if I decide to, do whatever, that the only thing that's holding me back is just deciding to do it. And so it feels amazing that I have this sort of energy and drive and determination to just take on really anything. I'd say that's the biggest one. And the other one is definitely just this idea of freedom, and feeling so at peace and calm with life, and feeling comfortable with myself, um, and also excited. Even the workday that people kind of joke about, Mondays, and struggle with work, I sometimes I feel bad for saying this, but work feels so easy to me now because I'm not struggling through the day, and I no longer have the stresses of life with work and everything, and I don't take things too seriously. I've been able to let go of a lot of things. Um, and then just excitement to what comes next, because when we're sitting here 139 days, I'm only 49 days from that day 90, and all of these things have happened. I've been to Costa Rica shortly after the program, and we're now planning to buy property down there, and move to Costa Rica for retirement. And we're working on a plan to spend 50% of our time down there in the coming years. And none of that would have happened because Dana would not have signed up for that sort of thing. She was at a point where she was concerned about what the future looked like, and now we're making future plans, and just the excitement of what life can bring. My family has noticed a difference. My parents, they're so excited to see me now, because I've always been the kid that's been successful, but they knew that I was drinking and that it was a problem, and now getting past that, my mom is just so happy that I'm alcohol free, and so it's just, yeah, I mean, every day is now just amazing, and I feel great. And I'm so present that I'm spend a lot of time thinking about what to do next, but I also have this amazing comfortableness about just being in the present and not worrying about needing to do something or expand, even though I know that I have all this energy now, and it's just going to happen on its own through having time, and feeling like I can do anything.
Yeah, I can sense that just listening to you. It's like an extraordinary combination of vision and drive and motivation, but it's very grounded. It's a grounded energy, which is so empowering, because energy when we're drinking is just scattered all over the place, isn't it? It's like, ooh, you just don't know what you're doing half the time.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing, and you have all these ideas in your head that you never do, and that you're thinking about all of the ideas, but really focused on the one next drink,
Yeah.
and pushing those ideas that are swirling in your head off into some mystical future that's never going to happen.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's a mystical future that's never going to happen unless you take action. So my last question, I always like to ask this question, is, let's say you were listening to this podcast back then when you were in that state that we talked about, alone, damaged. What would you say to yourself?
Yeah, that's a great one. I would say it works, and that the program really worked for me in a way that I had hope and I thought that it would work, but I didn't realize how well that it would work. I thought that maybe it would help me get to a point where I could not drink and get by, and maybe still have that feeling of that I was missing out and not partaking, but that I could manage it. But I had no idea that I would get to a point where I feel this freedom and that I'm not the one missing out, that everyone else is. So I would say it works to my former self in a way that I couldn't have even imagined at the time.
Well, Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you. If you're listening and you can't see the visual, even Adam is just glowing, he's calm, he's grounded, and clearly has literally taken off. It's almost like I feel like you've just taken off in life, because of removing and taking that really brave and bold step to remove the thing that's been holding you down for so long. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been an amazing journey for sure.
Well, it sounds like it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
All these things that you've got to look forward to, but also just enjoying being in the present moment. It's wonderful. So thank you, Adam, and to all of you listening, thanks for staying with us. This is Sarah Connelly and Adam Myers for the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle podcast. All the information about the program and everything will be in the show notes and to follow. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle podcast. I want to load you up with some free stuff right now. So if you want to go to jamesswanwick.com/guide, I will send you my Quit Alcohol Guide, which has helped six-figure entrepreneurs and top professionals reduce or quit drinking. You can also text the word Quit Guide to the number 44222 if you're in the US, of course. It doesn't really work anywhere outside of the US, but if you're in the US on your mobile phone and you'd like that guide, text the word Quit Guide to the number 44222, or you can go to jamesswanwick.com/guide. If you'd like to schedule a free 15-minute call with one of my top coaches, just an exploratory call to see if or how we can help you, then you can go to jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90 to the number 44222 if you're listening in the US on a mobile phone. That's jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90, that's one word, Project 90, to the number 44222. And finally, a request. Would you please now write a short review of the podcast inside of the Apple Podcast app on your phone or on iTunes on your desktop computer? Would you please give the show 5 stars and write a quick 1 or 2 sentence review? This will help the show get in front of even more listeners, potentially transforming someone's life. You can rate and review the show inside of your Apple Podcast app on your phone or over on iTunes on your desktop. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time.